Hello everyone, welcome to our third Facebook Live series. Today I'm here with Katie Marshall and I'm going to give her the stage in a second to introduce herself. Just before we get started, I wanted to say a massive thank you to Mike again for coming to Australia. We had the best time with him at the gala dinner on Thursday night, and then for members, the full day workshop on Friday. I know I personally got a lot out of it, as did the other members. But today we're here to find out a little bit more about another one of our Profit First professionals, Katie, who works specifically with tradies. So hi Katie, welcome, and let us know a little bit about yourself.
Hello everyone, thank you for having me, Laura, and again thanks Mike for last Friday, Thursday night and Friday. It was amazing. So my business is Efficient Tradie, and I work specifically with tradies to help them sort out their bookkeeping firstly, to make that nice and efficient and simple, so we can then work on their cash flow, because that is the number one problem that they have. But we can't work on the cash flow unless the numbers are right, so that's why we start with the bookkeeping firstly.
Awesome. And so how long have you been doing this for, and what made you choose Tradies?
So I started my business on July 1st, 2012. Nothing like keeping it nice and neat and tidy. Yeah. And the reason why I chose Tradies was I was in business a few years and I was hating it. Absolutely hated it. And I realized I couldn't go back and work for somebody else anymore. We'd kind of past that point. And so I sat down and I looked at my clients and did a list of who I loved working with and who I didn't so much love working with. And to my surprise, all my tradies were on my to love pile and everyone else was on the other pile. So from that point on, I just found other bookkeepers who were better suited to those other clients and kept my tradies. I grew up around a lot of tradies. My dad, my brother is now, my husband is, my in-laws, brother-in-laws, everybody around me are tradies. So it kind of, looking back, it's a real logical choice that took me a couple of years to figure out. Yeah, that's why I chose tradies. I find them really fun to work with. I can make a really big difference in their business quite quickly. And behind every tradie is generally a wife or a partner and some kids. And to be able to help not only the tradie, but the families as well, that was kind of key for me, to be able to help them not be so stressed about their money.
Awesome. It's so important that we choose the industry or the people that we really want to work with. So I'm so glad to hear that this is working for you, and it was also quite a logical step for you, but we always tend to do it the hard way and come about it, later rather than earlier. So I guess my first question is, why did you choose to become a Profit First professional?
So I first came across Profit First back in 2014 when Mike originally wrote the book. My business coach at the time come across it and just said to me, you're going to love this, you need to read this and you need to start looking at this. And so I did. So I implemented it in my own business in really small, slow steps, which is something typical of how I do things or did things, and found that it really worked, particularly just to keep my GST aside and money aside for tax. So even though I would speak to clients all day, every day about how they should do those things, actually doing them yourself is a whole nother story. But because I had the framework of Profit First, it really became second nature and I didn't have to sort of think about it. That's just part of my process and that's what I did. And so then probably 18 months, 2 years into that, I kind of thought about it some more and then put it on the back burner for a little while and didn't do anything about it. But then by that stage, I had a lot of my clients who we'd sorted out their bookkeeping for. They'd been with me for a few years then, and we'd been working on cash flow, but nothing was really sort of sticking for them. Nothing was successful enough for my liking. And then that's when I started looking back into the Profit First and becoming accredited so I could use that same framework that I used with my clients. Because tradies, whilst some people say, I don't know how you work with them because they never turn up on time, they don't return phone calls and that type of thing. In actual fact, if you give them a system or a process, they will follow that very easily. And so I decided that I couldn't what I could do with them wasn't enough anymore. So I needed to do more. And education and training for myself has always been a priority. I've always consistently learned and looked at new ways to do things. So it just, again, was kind of a logical step to make that move. And my clients are certainly very glad I did, because a lot of them have been doing it for a few months now properly with me and already seeing huge changes. So yeah, that's great.
Awesome. And so how are you implementing Profit First with your clients? And I guess what are the things that you're really concentrating on, and what differences that you just sort of mentioned are they seeing?
So every client is different in that, so my clients tend to be somewhere around the 350 turnover up to a couple of mil, so quite a range. But every person is different in how they adapt to change, how willing they are to learn something new, how busy their life is and their business is. So some people come in and we do everything, and we implement everything, and they're ready for that. But they have generally got more established businesses. They've gone through some highs and some lows, and they don't really want to go through a low again. So they're ready to do something different. My newer, or those businesses who are a little bit smaller, they tend to, we just take it a step at a time. We open an account, we put aside GST. We open an account, we put aside some tax. We start them paying themselves a regular amount every week. So instead of taking $100 here, $100 there, a couple of hundred here, they just choose an amount, and that they have a payday, and that happens every Thursday, for example. So with each of those, you see, again, varying differences of change with them. But surprisingly, even those smaller tradies who just open a GST account, I have gotten more emails and phone calls complimenting what I do in the past sort of 6 months than I have ever before. And simple things like, I'll get an email that says, I know this seems really stupid, but I was able to pay my GST bill and I didn't have to worry about it, and I've got money left. What's wrong? They instantly think something's wrong, because they're like, we've got spare money. This can't be right. And that's when I remind them that we talked about this and this is what happens. So it's the smallest things that make the biggest difference to many of the tradies, and just being able to pay your GST on time without going on a payment plan or having to pull it from somewhere else is a huge relief for all of them.
It's so true. And I think what you said before is absolute key. Every single business is different, regardless of whether they're in the same industry or not. And unfortunately, what I see, and I'm sure you probably agree as well, is that a lot of businesses think, well, my business is the same as another person's business, and so I'm just going to do it all, and it's going to be as it says in the book, or from what I've been told, and that sort of thing. And then it's like, Profit First doesn't work. And so the fact that you said step at a time is absolute key. And just to give sort of people some understanding of your own Profit First implementation, what sort of changes have you seen in your business? Was it a set and forget, or did you have to make changes? How was your own experience?
So like most people, and I always say to my clients, it's not, once we implement this, everything's not going to be beautiful and perfect and just, great. You'll have ups and downs, as did I. And I always say to my clients, I'm like, I went through the same thing that you will, and that's why I can, I'll tell you about it just to let you know it's coming, and it might be a big up or a big down, but we can get through it. So for myself, I found when I initially started it before I was accredited, I would go really well for a little while, and then it'd be like, oh, I just need to do this other course. And I wouldn't have enough money in my OPEX account, but I would justify it because I want to, learn more about that. So I would borrow it from your GST account or your tax account. Clearly, we know that that doesn't work. So even myself, as somebody who talks to clients about this all day, every day, isn't immune to those things. And that's where it comes back to our human behavior. We have to change our habits. We have to be ready to learn and ready to change. Otherwise, it's a struggle. Like, it can still work to a degree, but you just struggle doing that. So I always say I fell on and off the wagon a few times before I really stuck to it. And once you see the big one, as I said, once you see GST and the account and you've got more than you need. But also when you're able to take your profit distribution every quarter and spend that on yourself, that was something I really struggled with. I would spend that on more education until I finish my accreditation. I'm like, oh, I really need to do this part properly. But it took me a while to figure out what I was going to spend it on, because I was so used to just propping up the business all the time that I wasn't used to it. It was a very weird, strange feeling. But once you do it a couple of times, it's like, woohoo, like you can't wait for that quarter. And it's like, what am I going to buy? What am I going to spend that on next? And for me at least, it has certainly given me more confidence that I know it works and it's going to work with my clients as well. But also it makes coming to work much more fun. Like I love my business and I love what I do. And I thought I loved it a lot, but since implementing it completely and then becoming accredited, now it's just a whole another level. And to say that you really love your business and you get up every day and you can't wait to go to work, not everybody has that opportunity to do that. So, but again, it wasn't smooth sailing. There was lots of rough waters. So don't think it's not a magic potion that's just going to fix everything for you, at least at the beginning.
Absolutely. And that's the exact thing that I think as human beings, we're like, well, if we do this, it's all going to be really easy.
It's all going to be great.
Yeah. And I guess the key is, if you are going to implement something, it gives you a framework and, it works with our human behavior. But things, the thing is, people make errors, people make mistakes. We do succumb to that, I want to buy this for that and justify it. But having, I guess, someone that's working with you keeps you more on track. And also when it is a little bit more difficult, you can step in and kind of go, all right, well, what's the plan around this? How are we going to come back from that? What are we going to do? So can you give me an example of, obviously privacy, but of, I guess, a difficulty that you see come up time and time again for business owners that you work with, and I guess a tip around how to get through it?
So one thing with my clients, as I sort of mentioned before, I always explain to them what's kind of coming up and how it worked in my business. So explain the story of it, not following it and then following it and not, and so on. So when they get to that stage, they're like, oh, this is what Katie mentioned that would happen. And I also tell them that it's not, I'm not going to come after them and be cranky at them if they take some money from their GST account or something like that. What I will do is say, okay, that happened. We can't change that. What do we need to change in the business to have it not happen again? So if that means, for some clients, they pay their GST straight to the ATO every week as money comes in because they just don't have that self-control yet to be able to leave it in a bank account. And then eventually they change to a bank account. And it's interesting that there's that's probably the big one around the GST, because they're so used to just being able to borrow from the GST because we don't have to pay that just yet. And then, we can get a payment plan. Like that's kind of the normal way that things work in business in Australia, particularly tradies. My tradies are always like, oh, but I was at a barbecue. And as soon as you hear those words, you're just like, oh no. And, Dave said, I don't have to pay that for here, or I can claim this and that. And it's like, that's great. But does Dave have any qualifications or experience? No. So let's get kind of back on track and start again. And I find that they, as I said, very good at following a framework once you give that to them, but also letting them know that it's okay to sort of fall out of that framework, but we need to make sure that we come back and have greater amounts of time between those sort of slips. And eventually they find that they get into that new habit, and it's a much simpler process for them then.
Absolutely. And if you take your time to do it and you do it step by step, it doesn't feel quite so hard. We're scared of change. So
yes.
Definitely something that as humans, regardless of what industry or business, change is scary. And when it all comes at once, it's when you kind of go, I'm going to go back to what I'm used to doing.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So I have another question for you. For the business owners, oh, I think I might have dropped out. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm going to keep going because I'm not sure if people can hear me or not. It looks like Katie's frozen my end. Can you hear me, Katie? Gotta love technology. Okay, so I'll wait until Katie comes back. Jessica has just confirmed that she can hear me. So I think Katie might be having some technical issues. So, okay, there's two Jessicas. Oh, you're back! Let me, I can
Wouldn't be
see
us without
that.
technical issues, would it?
Exactly. Okay. We're just going to bear with us 1 second. We've got some technical, got to rejig it all. 1 second. Thanks for bearing with us. Okay, I think we're on track now. If someone could please comment below to let me know if you can hear and see both of us. We were on such a roll, all this gold coming out of your mouth, Katie. It's all good. So true. Just so that people know, Katie and I often speak, and technology is not our friend ever.
Even though we love technology, it is never our friend.
Never our friend at all. So I'm glad that you're back though, and I'm just waiting to see. Good, we've got confirmation that we're both back again and it's working, so that's good. What we were talking about was, I guess, the differences and change being difficult for businesses and people in general. Exactly. But I guess for business owners that are watching, what is the number one tip or the first thing that they could do when it comes to Profit First and the implementation in their business? So let's say they've read the book and they feel like they understand Profit First, but I guess what would be your number one tip?
So from speaking from experience in my own business, my number one tip would be to seek out a professional. So even though that sounds like I'm just trying to drum business up for ourselves, I know in my business, when I have done anything that is not my specialty, so marketing and that type of thing, I generally love to learn. So I will go and I will learn it, and I'm still not great at it. So it costs me twice as much as just going to somebody who loves it and lives and breathes it. So to seek out help and support from a Profit First professional. Now, that doesn't have to be a sign up to the biggest package and jump all in. Just you can start your journey in smaller steps if need be, but just make sure you have somebody who is accredited and knows what they're doing to be able to help you on that journey, because it will save you not only money, whilst that's important, but more so time, because we can't get that back. Once I dread to think the amount of time I've spent learning things that have been of no real use to me. So that's the time that you save is the biggest benefit.
Absolutely. That is so true. And I guess for any accountants, bookkeepers, or coaches that are watching, why would they consider becoming a Profit First professional?
The community. We have a pretty awesome community. I'm very particular on what sort of business groups and communities I become a part of, because again, time is precious to us all. And I would have to say that this community is one of very few that I love to catch up with, and I love to go to our monthly meetings, and I love to do all those things with. So, and particularly for accountants and bookkeepers and coach, sometimes it can be quite lonely. So we're always reaching out to each other. Hey, we did this, it was fabulous. Hey, we did this, it wasn't so fabulous. But also to help your clients. If what you're doing now is not helping your clients to where you would like them to be, we need to make a change. Something has to be different. So don't just keep doing what you've always been doing if that's not working. But definitely come on board with us. We're a fun bunch.
That's for sure. I think we laugh more than anything, really.
Yeah, that's
and we
right.
can cry too, which is great. Was there anything else that you wanted to let people know about? Like, do you have a group or something that you run on Facebook that people might be able to join? Or how can they contact you, get more information? Tell us everything.
So you can, I do have a group on Facebook, which is Profit First for Tradies. So you can just search that and request to join. In there, I just give lots of hints and tips, answer questions. It's all kind of a no salesy type of zone. Specifically, I've done that because I just want to help you get to that next stage where you're ready to look at hiring a Profit First professional. That's probably the best place to get the information. Obviously, you can go to my website, efficienttradie.com, but the Facebook group is much more active. We've got nearly 500 members and only started it a few months ago. So lots of people who are just starting out have heard of it. Some have read the book. Some have started to implement. There's a whole range of people in there. So don't be thinking, I'll be that person that doesn't know anything. No, there's plenty of people in there just starting their journey.
Absolutely. I think we have to remember that is that we don't know what we don't know.
Yes, that's right.
I learn that every day. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that.
And that's it. We just have to continue to try and learn and grow. And otherwise, business can be very stressful. We want to make it fun.
Absolutely. It should be fun, and we need to make our lives easier rather than harder. So
Yes.
thank you so much, Katie, for joining me. I always love a chat with you. I'll also be popping in the comments below Katie's details, so her website, her Facebook page, and the group. So if you want to get in contact with her, you know where to find Katie. And yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome.
And
Thank you very much.
I think next month with another Profit First professional, because we've got quite a few around Australia doing different things. So once again, thanks for joining us for those that joined live, and for those watching the recording, still put your comments in and I'll tag Katie if it's specific to her, and I'll answer any questions too. So have a great day and rest of the week, and I will speak to you all again soon. Thanks, Katie.
Thanks. Bye.